And this is my video reflection for Com 313. The first chapter I want to talk about is chapter 3, which is all about drawing people together. My weakness concerning this chapter is that I tend to either be romantically attracted to or want to create friendships with people who it is very impossible to do so, normally because of proximity, and I'm not physically close to the person. Instead, according to the text, I should look for attractions or relationships partially according to physical environment, proximity, and social environment. Regarding this chapter, I would like to talk about my relationship with the college group where I attend church. The physical environment in which we engage is normally cozy with low lighting and soft colors, all of which research has shown can influence attraction to another person. As far as proximity is concerned, with this group, I see them at least 3 days of the week, and so this gives me opportunities to interact with and become closer to people because I see them more frequently. It's kind of like an exposure effect. For social environment, oftentimes I create relationships with people that my closer friends like. We have the same values, same beliefs, and so often we are attracted to one another because of those ideas. The next chapter is chapter 4, which is about uncertainty. My weakness with this chapter is that I always want to be sure of everything regardless of the outcome. Instead of focusing on principles of the uncertainty reduction theory, I should focus on the principles of the theory of motivated information management. Uncertainty reduction theory has 3 principles. People dislike uncertainty and want to reduce it as much as possible. People communicate in order to gain information and reduce uncertainty. And people communicate in strategic ways to reduce uncertainty. The theory of motivated information management, on the other hand, is based on the idea that people want to reduce uncertainty in certain situations, but not in others. With these theories in mind, I have concluded that reducing uncertainty is not always necessary. The example I want to use is with my mom. Oftentimes, she keeps or hides things from me for a good reason, such as she doesn't want to make me worry or stress out more than I already am. Normally when I find out that she's been hiding things, I get upset with her because I would have liked to have known the information. However, I've now come to the realization, after reading the text, that reducing uncertainty isn't always what's best for me. Instead, choosing the information I want to acquire depends on the effect that the knowledge may have once I learn it. If the effect is negative, I would not want to reduce uncertainty. If the effect is positive or neutral, I would want to reduce uncertainty. The next chapter is chapter 6, which is about self-disclosure, and self-disclosure involves one person sharing information about himself or herself with another, and it is also responsible for creating connections and closeness between partners or potential partners. My weakness concerning self-disclosure is self-disclosing how I feel about potential romantic partners because I am afraid of rejection. The rejection is a very plausible fear according to the text. Some of the harsher effects of self-disclosing can be eliminated through online communication of the information that's being disclosed. An alternative to fearing rejection, especially in my case, is to see self-disclosing as a goal to be completed rather than an obstacle to overcome. And rather than focusing on the response of the receiver to the disclosed information, focus on the disclosure itself and making it through the conversation. The example I have is self-disclosing to a guy I like. I self-disclosed probably a few weeks ago. I decided that I would tell the guy that I was romantically attracted to that I had feelings for him before he left for Europe for 3 weeks. Initially, and by initially I mean for like 4 months. I lived in a constant state of fear at the thought of telling him and him rejecting me. However, I eventually came to the realization that it was more important to self-disclose how I was feeling about him than to let my fear get in the way. Granted, I almost passed out during the conversation, but I disclosed the information and got the point across, so that was the important part. The next chapter is chapter 10, which is about maintaining relationships. According to the text, relational maintenance involves 4 things: keeping a relationship in existence, keeping a relationship in a specified state or condition or at a stable level of intimacy so that the status quo is maintained, keeping a relationship in satisfactory condition, and keeping a relationship in repair. And my weakness concerning this chapter is lack of face-to-face interaction within long-distance relationships. Instead, I should use the concept of idealization, which occurs when people describe their relationship and their partner in glowing, overly positive terms that sometimes reflect unrealistic expectations. However, as the text points out, idealization can lead to changes when relationships become proximal or not long distance. And I must keep that in mind, that our positive perceptions of each other should not be a result of idealization. My example for this is long distance friendships that I have created with friends abroad in other countries. For the past 5 summers, I have gone on a mission trip to Peru, and every summer I make at least one new Peruvian friend. Normally I keep in touch with these friends during the time surrounding the trip, but then life gets in the way and I don't really have time to keep up with those friendships, as terrible as that sounds. However, when we do communicate, it's only through messaging rather than Skyping or video calling on Facebook. I feel like the latter would make idealization a little less likely to cause difficulties. So in the future, after this year's mission trip, I will keep in better communication with my long-distance friends, as well as use idealization, but not to an excessive amount, because it can cause problems. And the last chapter I would like to talk about is chapter 11, which is all about conflict. And according to the text, there are 6 conflict styles in close relationships. Competitive fighting, which involves one partner trying to control the interaction to have more power over the other partner. Compromising, which involves searching for a fair intermediate position that satisfies some or both partners' needs. Collaborating, which involves cooperative problem solving that helps people find creative solutions that satisfy both partners' needs and lead to a win-win situation. Indirect fighting, which is also known as passive aggressiveness, which involves expressing aggression or disagreement in an indirect manner that can shut down discussion about the conflict issue. Avoidance, which involves refraining from arguing and refusing to confront their partners in any meaningful way. And yielding, which involves a partner foregoing his or her own goals and desires in consideration of the partner. My weakness concerning the conflict chapter is that I use the avoidance conflict style in many of my friendships, but one in particular comes to mind. There are certain topics that in this relationship we should not bring up, otherwise we'll get into an argument. Alternatively, when we have a conflict, both of us tend to stop talking and either make a joke after a few minutes or just change the subject altogether. Instead, we should use a conflict strategy that will benefit the relationship rather than diminish it. Collaborating seems to be the best alternative to avoidance. Rather than not confronting my friend about the conflict, I've learned to share my concerns regarding the conflict and work towards finding a solution to the conflict with my friend. The chapters in this textbook have taught me very valuable information regarding relationships and how to improve them. I'm very thankful for this class, as it has taught me practical life skills that I can take into each and every one of my relationships in the future. Thank you.